Hi there, welcome to this build of a 49-inch wingspan Diamond Demon. It's a lovely vintage model from the late 1930s, and we've been building this from a great set of plans from Ben Buckle in the UK. Now we've almost completed this now. We're really on the home stretch. We've got the wings finished and covered, and the tailplane and fin finished and covered, so these are all ready to go. And we've done the finishing with a laminating film and a Japanese Asuka tissue, so a lovely orange and blue finish, and it really does give a lovely vintage appearance. And we're coating it with polyurethane, a water-based polyurethane. But now it's time to get the fuselage covered, and I'm really excited to crack on with this and get it done. And we're going to be doing it in the same material obviously as the wings and the tail assembly. Now we're going to put the laminating film on first. We've got a big roll of Doculam. This is really cheap. This was I think it's 150 meters long by 320 wide, and this cost about £18 sterling. Excuse me. And it's 38 micron laminating film, so this is a great product to use. It shrinks, it sticks, it shrinks with heat. Doesn't shrink a huge amount like a lot of the covering films, but it does shrink enough for what we want. And what we're going to do is we're going to put on the laminating film on the whole of the fuselage first, or at least up to the point here where the balsa starts. I don't see the point in trying to cover the front, because we can just put the tissue straight onto that, hopefully anyway. And then we're going to put on the tissue the same manner as we've done before with the water-based polyurethane. And the colour scheme that I'm thinking of at present, it might change during the process, but hopefully not. I'm thinking of having the whole bottom half blue below this crutch and the nose blue, and then we're going to have the orange on the top of the diamond, except for this very small diamond shape here, or triangular shape here, which is going to be blue. And that actually will tie in with the, let's just see how I can do this, with the blue on the back of the wing. So that blue, hopefully, yes, you can see that, the blue will carry on down there, and this will be orange. So the first thing I'm going to do is get on and get this laminating film on. Now I'm not sure how long this is going to take, and whether I'm going to split this into 2 videos or I'll do the whole covering process in one. I'll basically see how it goes, and how long the lamination takes. It might be just easier to split it so it's not one great big long video, but we'll see. So right, so I've cut myself a piece of Doculam, and we've got a shiny side and we've got a matte side. The matte is the glue, so we want shiny side up. And we're going to do this in a number of sections. We're going to do the bottom of each side first, so 1, 2. Then we're going to do the same on the top, 1, 2, and probably this diamond bit here will get done separately, and then we'll do the keel, I think. It may change as we go along. I've got a bit of cord in here which is just for the servo wire, so I can thread it through. Now I'm going to be putting this on with my iron at about 110 degrees, and we need to try and get this as tight as possible, because it doesn't shrink a great deal, not like normal covering film. And we want to stick it on but not shrink it to start with. And I say we don't want to shrink it while we're sticking it is because if we shrink it, we're losing shrink power, if you like, that we'll need when we come to do the final shrinking, when it's all stuck on. So I hope that makes sense. We just want maximum shrinkage when we need it, and if we lose some of that shrinkage, just sticking it on, it's kind of a waste. So this is still 115 now, so I will just have a go at sticking it on here. As this sticks, it just loses colour. It goes transparent. And as I said, we need to get this nice and tight as possible. So I'm just going to stick this end, and then I'm going to go down the other end, do that, and then I'll work my way along the sides. Just a word of note on putting this on. I find that by moving the iron outwards like this has two benefits. One, it doesn't wrinkle it as if you were going that way. If you go that way, you end up pushing the film and getting wrinkles and bags. So I find bringing it outwards from what I'm covering really helps. And the other thing is, you're not moving the iron over the film. If I was to do it this way, I would be heating up the film and shrinking it, which is the last thing I want to do. So just nice outward movements at this stage to get this nicely done. Right, we've got this side done now, and you can see there's a few wrinkles in there, here and there, but I think most of those, or hopefully all of them, will disappear when we start to shrink it. I haven't stuck it to these cross formers because I find that it's better to try and shrink it as a whole. If we split it up into sections, then you're kind of bound by these sections. It won't slide across those. So I'd much rather shrink it as one big piece if I can, and then at the end it'll stick to these, which is fine. So that's kind of the idea. What I'm going to do now is turn this over and do the other side, and then we'll move up onto the top. Right, well, I'm cracking on with this now. I've got both sides of the fuselage done. Not too many wrinkles. Can't remember which side I did first, but they're both looking pretty good. I'm quite pleased, and I think this will shrink nicely and get rid of those wrinkles. On the second side, I ended up doing it here like I did the first side, pulling it to the back here, but then doing this piece first with this nice and flat, and then pulling it up at an angle. I just found that a little bit easier. Now for this back piece, this is going to be interesting. I was thinking I would do it in two pieces and then a third piece, but I'm just wondering whether this will go on as one piece. It would be nice if it did. Sorry, when I say one piece, I think it's going to have to get cut here and a separate piece in there. I was thinking all this as one and then splitting out to those two pieces. If this had been a covering film, then you'd be able to shrink this, I'm sure, and stretch it, but this stuff won't, not around here. So I'm going to start down the back here, work my way forward, and we'll see how it goes. Well, it's funny the things that can surprise you. I started doing this back section and wondered whether I could do this and those bits kind of curving round, but it all got a bit ugly, so I took it off. It transpired that this was the really difficult piece, and so I've just been trying to get a piece just on that section there, and you wouldn't think that would be too hard, but boy, that has given me some jip. There's still a very slight wrinkle in it, but I'm not going to try to get that out, I don't think, or maybe I will, but not until I've got the top in. But that section there, the way it twists, is really hard. I ended up putting it on as tight as I could by trying to stretch it and sticking it on, and it still had lots of wrinkles. And I decided on my fourth attempt to go for the nuclear option. And so I had a bit of card to shield the bottom, and I just blasted it really hot. I don't know how hot, but this is on full heat, and there you go, it shrank it to my surprise. So I'm going to try and do the other side now, and then we'll have a look at what it looks like before I shrink it, and I think we'll have to go for the heat gun again. But boy, that's difficult to get on, it really is, and that took me by surprise. Okay, we've now got this on. Not too bad, probably similar to what it was like before, maybe not as good, I'm not sure. So what I'm going to do now, I've made sure this is tacked down really well, and there's no point in us moving on to the rest of it until we know whether we've got this right. So I'm going to use the hot air gun again, and we'll see what happens. And it might be that we have to strip it off and start again, but better to see now than get the rest of it done and then strip it off. If you do have to take this film off, heat it up first to soften the glue, and then it just peels off, which is quite quite useful. So let's see what this goes like. Let me just zoom the camera in a little bit. Now the thing about this film is it shrinks when you get it hot, but it also shrinks as it contracts, as it cools down. And actually that's gone lovely, hasn't it? Oh, I'm really pleased with that. So yeah, pleased and really quite relieved. There's a little bit of a wrinkle there, but I might just try and put a hot iron on that and see if I can get that out. But I tried with an iron several times to do this, and I couldn't, but that's gone lovely now. So what I need to do now is just make sure I'll do this bit here, make sure I've got this nice and secure so it doesn't slip, and the same with the top. I think I might put the top piece in next, and then this back piece should be fairly easy. I've already had a piece on the back here and had to strip it off when I got to the other side. But oh, I'm glad to get that done. I did look at it and think, am I ever going to get this done? But anyway, I will get on. Right, well, I've got that cleaned up nicely now and held on. So we're going to get this triangular piece in, and I'm going to start with a nice straight edge on this side here. And I think if we start with one straight edge, get that tacked on, and then we can move and to the rest, and we can trim the other sides. But it's always an element of danger, I think, when you start trimming, because you could damage what you've already done. So if we can get one side right, that kind of reduces the risk. There we go. So that is on, and hopefully now that will just pull straight across. Yeah, I think that's not going to give us famous last words, not going to give us too much grief, hopefully. Right, well, I've got this bit shrunk now. There's a little bit of a wrinkle in the V there, but I'm going to live with that. And there's a little bit of perhaps a wrinkle very slightly there, but I'm going to live with that. That'll be fine. So I'm just going to cut this piece out now and put a bit in there, because that's going to be solid colour. And then we'll just get this last bit done, which hopefully, fingers crossed, should go on fairly easily. Okay, time to get the back on, the last piece. And I've cut a nice straight edge on these two sides, and I'm going to line that up on there, and we'll get this down this side. Now, if the doculam overlaps, it's not a big deal. The seams are quite thin, don't really show up that much, and we're going to cover it in tissue anyway, so I think it'll be fine. So we'll start off just trying to do this, I think do this down here. Right, well, we've got this totally covered now, or everything we need to cover before we put the tissue on, but obviously we still need to shrink it down. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put my iron up to about 150 so it's nice and hot, and I'm going to go around all of the seams. Not going to touch these, as I said before, but I'm going to do the major seams and just make sure that it's held really nice and firm, and then I'm going to start shrinking it. And I think this back I will probably get the heat gun on. I'll see. I don't like using the heat gun because I think it's a little bit uncontrolled, and sometimes you can do more damage than you want than good, really. But we'll see how that goes. But anyway, once my iron's up to temperature, I will get these seams done. Right, I've now got this finished, all of the doculam on that needs to be on, and it has shrunk absolutely lovely. You can see there's very few wrinkles. There's a very small one here, but nothing really to be concerned about, and the same on this side. There's another, just a very small wrinkle there, but I managed to get out this central one here, which was causing me a lot of the problem. And I put the hot air gun on it, and that came out really, really well. So I'm very relieved to get this done, and it hasn't been an easy job around this top piece. Well, I am hugely relieved to get this finished now, because at one point I thought I was never going to get this right around here. It just wasn't playing ball, but as you saw, this has gone on beautifully now, and there's very, very few wrinkles at all, and those that are there are minute. And I've learnt a huge amount doing this covering about what you can do with doculam, and every time I do a covering I learn a lot. I never realised that actually doculam was so resilient when it comes to the heat gun. I did things today that if it had been a normal covering film, I'd have blown a hole in it. So it's good. it's gone on and we're ready to move on to the tissue covering now. But I think because I've tried to include as much as I can in this video, techniques and what I'm doing and the high-speed film, if I include the tissue covering in this video, it's going to make it much too long. So I will split it up into two, because the tissue covering itself is quite involved. So anyway, I hope you found this interesting and useful, and please come back and see how we get on putting the tissue on this and making this look like the lovely late 1930s vintage model that it is.